1 d4, Goodmanson opens with the queen's pawn, aiming for a solid, positional game. This is a classical approach, intending to build a strong center and develop methodically. 1 nf6, Fischer responds with maximum flexibility. This move prepares for a range of dynamic defenses like the king's Indian or Grunfeld, keeping white guessing about his intentions. 2 nf3, a quiet, solid developing move. White develops the knight and prepares to control the center without committing to a specific pawn structure just yet. 2 d5, Fischer stakes a claim in the center, steering the game towards more classical queen's gambit decline lines. This solid choice challenges white's control from the start. 3 e3, a solid but slightly passive choice from white. This prepares to develop the light-squared bishop but allows Fischer to dictate the pace of the game more easily. 3 g6, a key decision by Fischer. He signals his intention to fianchetto his king's bishop, adopting a Grunfeld or Catalan-style setup to pressure white's center from the flank. 4 c4, white establishes a classical pawn center. The plan is clear: control the middle of the board and use the space advantage to slowly build an attack. 4 bg7, Fischer completes the fianchetto. This powerful bishop, the Grunfeld bishop, will now challenge white's central control from the long diagonal for the rest of the game. 5 nc3, both sides continue with logical development. White reinforces the d4 pawn and prepares to complete the mobilization of his queenside pieces. 5-0, Fischer gets his king to safety before initiating active operations. Castling early is crucial in these open positions to avoid any central tactical shots. 6 qb3, an interesting and provocative move by white. The queen puts early pressure on the d5 pawn, forcing Fischer to react to the central tension. 6 e6, Fischer defends solidly. This move blunts the queen's pressure, reinforces the d5 pawn, and prepares to complete the development of his queenside. 7 b2, standard development. The bishop is placed on a flexible square, from where it supports the center and prepares to connect the rooks. 7 nc6, Fischer continues his logical development. The knight adds another defender to the d5 pawn and prepares to take part in the central struggle that is brewing. 8 qc2, white's queen retreats, perhaps admitting that the plan initiated with qb3 was not as effective as hoped. This gives Fischer a moment to regroup. 8 dxc4, Fischer decides to release the central tension now. This move opens the position, allowing his fianchettoed bishop to become much more active and influential. 9 bxc4, white recaptures the pawn, and the bishop now sits on an active central square. The position remains relatively balanced, but black's pieces are well poised. 9 e5, the thematic pawn break. Having completed development, Fischer immediately strikes at white's center, seeking to open the position for his powerful pieces. 10 dex5, white accepts the challenge and captures the pawn, opening the d-file. This leads to a more tactical phase of the game where piece activity will be paramount. 10 ing4, Fischer's knight leaps forward aggressively. It ignores the undefended pawn and instead attacks the weak f2 square, putting immediate pressure on white's kingside. 11-0, white castles the king to safety, a necessary move before dealing with black's threats. The king is now out of the center's line of fire. 11 next 5, Fischer's other knight joins the attack, capturing on e5. He now has a powerful pair of knights in the center, creating a significant positional advantage. 12 next 5, the knights are exchanged. This simplifies the position slightly, but the tactical nature of the game remains, and black's pieces are still more active. 12 next 5, Fischer recaptures, and his remaining knight on e5 is a dominant piece. It controls key squares, cramps white's position, and is a constant threat. 13 b2, the bishop is forced to retreat to a more passive square. This is a small victory for Fischer, as white's pieces are slowly being pushed back. 13 c6, a quiet but very useful move from Fischer. He solidifies his pawn structure, takes control of the d5 square, and prepares to challenge white's position. 14 hf4, white tries to kick the powerful knight, but this aggressive pawn push is a double-edged sword, as it creates a serious and permanent weakness on the e3 square. 14. ing4, the knight retreats but remains a nuisance, keeping an eye on the weakened squares around the white king and preparing to rejoin the attack. 15. h3, a natural-looking move to challenge the knight, but it overlooks Fischer's brilliant tactical reply that completely turns the game on its head. 15. bf5. A brilliant tactical shot. Fischer completely ignores the threat to his knight and develops his bishop with tempo, masterfully exploiting the weak light squares. 16. e4, a fatal mistake by Gudmundsson in a difficult position. Pushing the e-pawn walks directly into a devastating check that begins a forced, winning combination. 16. qd4+, the devastating check. This move begins a forced sequence that rips white's kingside defensive shield apart, exposing the king to a lethal attack. 17. kh1, the king is forced to a very vulnerable square on the edge of the board. From here, it will be a helpless target for black's coordinated assault. 17. nf2+, Fischer's knight delivers another powerful check, pulling the white rook to a bad square and opening even more lines of attack against the exposed king. 18. rxf2, the rook is forced to capture the knight, but this only serves to open the f-file for black's queen, which is about to deliver the final blow. 18. qxf2, Fischer's queen now invades the white position with devastating effect. It is completely unopposed and is weaving an unstoppable mating net. 19. ace x5, white grabs a pawn in the chaos, but it is a completely meaningless capture. The game will be decided by the direct attack on the white king. 19. bxc3, Fischer removes the key defender of the white king. By trading his bishop for the knight, he eliminates the piece that was holding white's position together. 20. bxc3, white's pawn structure around the king is now completely shattered. The king is naked and exposed to the full force of black's remaining pieces. 20. Re 8, Fischer's final piece, the rook, joins the attack with decisive force. The threat of Re 1+ is now overwhelming, and the position is beyond saving. 21. bd3, white is forced into a desperate and passive defense, but there is no way to stop the impending checkmate. The game is effectively over. 21. 1+ rupee, Fischer's rook invades the back rank with a check, initiating the final, winning combination. The end is now just a few moves away. 22. kh2, the king is driven further into the open, a helpless target for black's perfectly coordinated attack. The position is completely hopeless. 22. qg1+, Fischer's queen joins the rook, and together they weave a deadly mating net around the white king. There is no escape from the coming checkmate. 23. kg3, the white king is now a target in the middle of the board, an incredible and fatal position for a king in the middle game. 23. f8, Fischer's last rook joins the party with crushing effect. With all of black's pieces participating in the attack, checkmate is now unavoidable. 24. rb1, a desperate move to create a distraction, but it changes absolutely nothing. The game is long past the point of being saved. 24. gxf5, Fischer calmly removes a pawn, improving his position while white's king remains fatally exposed to the unstoppable attack. 25. bd2, white tries to trade pieces in a desperate attempt to survive, but it is far too late. The tactical storm has already decided the game. 25. rxb1, Fischer calmly exchanges rooks, knowing that the resulting simplification leads to a completely winning position for him. 26. qxb1, the queens are also exchanged. This is a confession from white that the attack has failed and the game is lost. The endgame is hopeless. 26. qxb1, Fischer recaptures, and the game has transitioned into an endgame, but white's position is a complete wreck and cannot be saved. 27. bxb1, white recaptures the queen, but the game is over. The final move of the game will demonstrate the complete collapse of white's position. 27. re2, the final, elegant blow. Fischer's rook invades the second rank, delivering a fork that attacks the bishop on b1 and the pawn on f2. White loses more material and resigned immediately. 0-1.